What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Stargirl review. This time, episode 2, titled Frenemies Chapter 2, The Suspects. This episode was a lot better than episode 1 because it actually, the whole entire premise of this episode actually really dealt with suspects. Whereas in episode 1 called the murder didn't happen until like the last few minutes of the episode, whereas the rest of the episode was basically showing you the status quo, the new norm for Courtney and the villains. Where this episode actually dealt with throughout the whole episode, trying to figure out who the suspects are. But let me give you a synopsis first, then I'm gonna get into it. After stumbling upon a suspicious murder in Blue Valley, the JSA began looking at potential suspects. So, what I mean by stumbling upon, this episode picks up right where, somewhat right where, because like it actually starts with like 12 hours earlier thing, and we see the gambler, what led to the gambler's death, including the fact that he had a surprise visit from the Shade, and then it got to his death, and we then after going through all that and then showing us that he did while he was in his trailer get a visit from the Shade, and then the whole gunshot in his death and getting attacked. Then it gets to where Courtney gets there, and you get Cindy saying I didn't do it, and then they basically having like a meeting at back at their little headquarters, talking with Starman and Pat about what happened, and Cindy to everybody, Cindy looked like a big suspect. But Cindy is like the only. Courtney is the only one trying to defend Cindy, saying that she basically said that she didn't do it, and that she stumbled. She was following up on her own leads into the gambler, and that's how she got there. And they like, okay, so she did. So that's what she said. But that why we heard a gunshot, and she said, and we seen the gun in her hand, and Cindy's, and then as she's explaining this, it cuts back and forth, like as she they do this funny thing where when Courtney said, well, this is what Cindy said, it actually cuts back to them looking at Cindy, and she's saying exactly what Courtney is telling Pat and them that she said, and then it'll cut back to Courtney. And then when they bring up like about the gun, they'll cut back. When Courtney get ready to say it cuts back to Sydney actually saying about the gun, where she said that the gun, she's telling them that the gun accidentally went off when she picked it up, and she dropped the gun. And pretty much they keep this meeting from Cindy because of the circumstances of how it looked. But you got I can't remember the girl who the other girl in the group. Can't remember her name at this point, but the one that's just basically gun ho that Sydney is evil is the one who's done it. She's like, oh, because she says so excuses her from being a suspect. They said, and then they showed zero remorse. They were like, okay, even if him being killed does kind of like. They accept that since that he got killed, that meant that he had nothing to do with what's going on. But they had no remorse for him being killed anyway. And and Courtney is trying to tell him, we can't not really have it. Just because he was a villain, that means we shouldn't be remorseful that somebody murdered him. But this kicks off the whole suspects things as Cindy is held as a suspect. And basically the rest of the JSA. We did get a little side story with Artemis' mother talking with Courtney's mom about Artemis' big old tryout, and as she helped her beat up the gamblers' former group. At this point, it's becoming apparent to the to Pat and Courtney that the gambler was telling the truth as they found his note that he written. That they starting to believe that he really was trying to reform and change because he has a daughter. They saw the note in the picture and they like, okay, I think he really was telling the truth. So they starting to believe that Courtney's brother and his friend they trying to own investigation using the I forgot what the guy's name, but in the pen they try to use him to find the killer, and he just gives them. They try to frame the wish in the right way possible, but the dude just gives them another runaround mill of a clue saying that the killer has many names. We get a good interaction between Starman and the Shade. With Starman and every interaction with the Shade, Starman gets into it with the Shade. He once at the bar down at his house, and he shows Courtney some new moves that some new moves that we didn't know was possible with the staff. He showed the one new move called the shooting star, and it's cool. I like the scene with it. I like how he does it, and then how he eventually teaches Courtney how to do it. But this leads to one of the most powerful scenes in the episode, where because of both failed interactions with the Shade, they basically had like Pat and his wife got both Starman and Courtney at the couch, just like, how could you guys do this? They just sitting there like, I know we messed up. Things just got out of hand. But the scene was powerful because Starman here reveals why he was so angry and why both interactions with the Shade went horribly, because he alludes to the fact that for like we saw in season 1, the Shade was the one who told him how they would be able to defeat Eclipso when he was possessing that guy. And he was the one who brought it to the JSA, and to which the JSA went and killed the innocent man in cold blood. He explains that it starts with the Shade. The downfall of the JSA started with the Shade, but his anger towards the Shade was more so an inner reflection. More so, he was more angry with himself than the Shade. But yeah, they questioned the Shade. Shade it's a little fun little thing about Shade and his quest to make the perfect tea. But I think the only suspects they had, they did in a little side story with Artemis' mom and dad. They did question Artemis' mom told Courtney's mom that they didn't do it because they wouldn't be sloppy as to leaving the gambler's body laying around, and that was like the Shade's thing too. He was saying he would have never left Shade body just laying there and destroy his trailer like that. He said he wouldn't be so over dramatic and overboard like that. He just would have dragged it to the shadow round. And at the end, they do kind of believe that the Shade had nothing to do with it, and they pretty go back to the drawing board who the suspects could be. And there's 2 suspects who they looked at, and they do got some type of secret. And it's like a little reveal, like maybe 2 of your suspects is not so clear after all, type thing. But this episode was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it way more than I enjoyed episode 1. I'm going to give this episode, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Big ups, just because I enjoyed it way more than I enjoyed episode 1. I can't remember what I gave episode 1. I think I either gave it a 7 or a 6. But this definitely was an 8, as it was way more enjoyable. I was way more into it. and it has some funny scenes and some character development scenes when it comes to Starman himself. Though I really truly don't rule out that there's something sinister going on with Starman. As we, how did he come back to life? And it seems like he's really wanted his staff back. So I mean, it's a mystery surrounding Starman, but overall, this was a good episode. You let me know in the comments down below, though, what you thought of this episode of Stargirl. And if you enjoyed it, you hit this button right there in the upper right corner for all of my Stargirl, for all of my reviews. And if you enjoyed the video so much you want to support the channel, all you gotta do, guys, is hit those buttons. And as always, hit any one of these videos for more of my amazing content. But don't go anywhere, because I got reactions and dialect gameplay. Because I finished, for the most part, I finished St. Rose. I think it's only like 2 after missions that I have to do, but for the most part, the main story of St. Rose is done. So, peace out.